It began quietly. Her touch, once a source of comfort, had become increasingly rare. For months, maybe even years, I had tried everything. Gentle words, affectionate gestures, surprise date nights, late-night talks. Anything to reconnect. Each effort was met with distance, a shrug, or polite avoidance. I remember lying beside her at night, reaching for her hand, only to have her pull away or bury herself beneath the covers. The rejection wasn't sharp, but it was constant, quiet, and suffocating. I used to beg, plead even, not out of desire, but out of a desperate need to feel close, to remind both of us that we were still a team. Each plea chipped away at my confidence, leaving me frustrated, anxious, and increasingly distant. I could see the tension in her eyes, the impatience in her movements. And slowly, I understood something. My desperation was feeding the distance. The more I chased, the more she withdrew. So I stopped texting, calling, initiating. I avoided glances that hinted at desire. Silence became my shield, my strategy. The first night, she barely noticed. By the second, a flicker of curiosity appeared in her eyes. By the third day, her gaze lingered a little longer, her movements around me a touch more cautious. I didn't speak, but every action or deliberate inaction was meant to send a message. I wanted to see if my withdrawal could awaken what had been dormant. It wasn't easy. Nights felt lonelier, colder. Doubt crept in. Was I making a mistake? Punishing her unfairly? But beneath it all, a sense of control began to settle. I was no longer man at the mercy of rejection. I was reclaiming my presence, my dignity, my boundaries. Then one evening it happened. She lingered in the living room longer than usual, hesitated in her step. Our eyes met just a fraction longer than before, and I saw it. Curiosity, frustration, and something else, longing. My silence had shifted the dynamic. The void I left was impossible for her to ignore. Over the following days, the change became more obvious. Isabella, once distant, began seeking small interactions, brief touches on the arm, casual glances, lingering nearby without reason. I remained composed, careful not to overreact. My silence was deliberate, a mirror reflecting back what she had taken for granted. One evening, I noticed her sitting alone at the kitchen counter, swirling a glass of wine, lost in thought. She didn't speak, but the tension in her shoulders and the way her eyes darted toward me revealed the internal struggle. I continued reading in the living room, pretending not to notice, but silently observing every gesture. Each sigh, each hesitant step closer confirmed it. My absence was making her reconsider the space she had created. She tried subtle approaches, touching my shoulder as she passed, leaning slightly closer when speaking. But I stayed still, almost cold, refusing to initiate any response. I wanted her to feel the effect of her distance, the emptiness my silence created. And slowly, she did. The breakthrough came late one night. I was on the couch, reading, when she approached, hesitated, then spoke, her voice low and uncertain. "Tony, can we talk?" That simple question carried months of avoidance, frustration, and unspoken longing. I didn't respond immediately, just looked up, meeting her gaze steadily, letting the weight of my silence do the work. She swallowed hard, fingers fidgeting with her sleeve. "I've been thinking about us about everything," she admitted. The hesitation in her voice said it all. She was finally confronting the reality that my withdrawal wasn't anger. It was a signal, a mirror reflecting the neglect and distance she had imposed on our relationship. I leaned back, keeping my tone calm. "Go on," I said softly, though my heart raced. She took a deep breath, gathering the courage to bridge the gap she had created. For the first time in months, she wasn't brushing me off or evading the conversation. She was present, vulnerable, aware that the dynamics had shifted and that I was no longer at her mercy. The air between us was charged, tension, anticipation, and the faint spark of connection we had lost. And in that silence, I realized something powerful. Sometimes withdrawal speaks louder than words, and absence can ignite desire that constant presence has dulled. The next days felt different. Isabella was more attentive, gestures softer, tone warmer. She initiated small touches, brushing against me in the hallway, sitting closer at dinner, even holding my hand just a moment longer. Tentative, subtle, but unmistakable. She was testing the waters, realizing the value of the connection she had once taken for granted. I remained careful, maintaining boundaries while allowing her to come closer on her terms. The transformation wasn't instant, but each interaction chipped away at the walls she had built. One evening, after putting the kids to bed, she spoke with honesty and vulnerability. "Tony, I didn't realize how much I was shutting you out. I've missed us. I miss you." Her voice trembled, a mix of regret and longing. For the first time in months, the warmth returned, the spark that had been hidden behind routine and neglect. I didn't rush to hug her or offer reassurance. I let the silence linger, letting her words and her admissions settle between us. Then, slowly I reached out. My hand brushed hers. Tentative at first, she responded immediately, leaning in as if remembering a language we had both forgotten. That night we talked, truly talked, for hours. Not about blame, but about the gaps we had created, the needs we had ignored, the ways we could rebuild intimacy. Each word, each shared memory, each confession bridged the distance that had grown over time. By allowing the silence, the tension that had shadowed our relationship began to shift. Isabella, once distant, became present, aware, intentionally seeking connection. My withdrawal, which had once felt like emptiness, became the catalyst for rediscovery. She understood that closeness isn't something to take for granted. That desire must be nurtured and respected. It wasn't magic. It wasn't instant forgiveness. But it was a beginning of reclaiming what we had lost. In that quiet reclamation, I learned a powerful truth about relationships. Stepping back, holding boundaries, and valuing yourself can awaken longing, respect, and connection in ways pleading never will. I had stopped begging for intimacy, and in doing so, I gave her the chance to want me again, not out of obligation, not out of guilt, but because she finally understood what she had been missing.